Hello, welcome to our Facebook Live session today. I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about a fabric that has really come into my life in recent times, actually. 10 years ago, I probably wasn't sewing with knits, and I know that because I use polyester thread to sew knit fabrics, and I use cotton thread for everything else. And my sewing room was full of nothing but cotton thread. Now, when I sort my thread, which is something that I do when I can't do anything else in life, sort thread, I realize I have more polyester thread in my sewing room than I do cotton thread. So, obviously I've been sewing with knits for a long time. And it takes a little bit of practice to sew with knits. I think there's still an intimidation factor when sewing certain knits, and there are some people who will never tackle them, some people who are tiptoeing into it, and other people who start there and then don't understand why there's anything interesting or wrong with sewing with knit fabrics. So wherever you are, I'm going to talk about a particular singular kind of knit today called jersey knit. Jersey knit is the most common knit that we see, and we think of it, I think, as a knit that you make a t-shirt out of. Whenever you go to the store and buy a basic t-shirt, it's likely to be in a jersey knit. It's a single knit as opposed to a double knit, and you identify it by the fact that it has a rib, a vertical rib on the face side of it, and a horizontal little loop sort of thing on the wrong side of the fabric. So if you're a knitter, you understand knit and purl, and that's essentially what a jersey knit is. It's a knit and purl fabric. Different on both sides, so there's definitely a right and wrong side. The way that you tell whether you're looking at the right side or the wrong side is you want to pull the fabric on the cross grain, and if it curls, first of all, that's a jersey. Secondly, it always curls to the right side of the fabric, so you always know which side to use, because sometimes the ribs and the little purls are so fine that you really can't see them unless you have a magnifying glass. So that's the way you tell what's right and wrong of a jersey knit. Jerseys come in a lot of weights. We think of them again as t-shirt weight fabrics. You can get them in anything from a very lightweight, tissue weight, even gauze, semi-transparent knit, to something as heavy as a sweater knit, and everything in between. So just because it's called a jersey doesn't have anything to do with the weight, it's the construction of the actual knit. And we also forget that jersey knits come in a lot of different fibers, from rayon and viscous. Those are two names that are synonymous essentially. Cotton, polyester, silk, wool, linen, just about every fiber. And of course, if I said polyester, I meant polyester, but also some blends as well, polyester with something else. So then you have jerseys that are with or without spandex. Now you see the word spandex, you see the word elastic, elastane, all of those are the same thing. They are an elastic property, and it's usually between the ranges of 2% and 10%. Obviously, the more percentage, the stretchier the fabric, therefore the most recovery. So I tend to think of fabrics that have spandex as a little bit more versatile in terms of using it for tops and bottoms. And fabrics that don't have spandex, they don't have as much recovery. You could kind of punch your thumb through the fabric, not through the fabric, but into the fabric, and create a little impression in that. Those I reserve for top weights. I'm not as interested in fabrics without spandex for bottom weights because of the bagging out in the knees and wherever. So, in addition to all the fibers and all the weights, then they come in solids and prints and some stripes. So, for instance, we have a lot of solid jersey knits. It's just something that we keep on hand all the time. It's one of our basics. You can see that this one is curling to the right side, so this on the bolt is with the face out. Then we have a print. Obviously you can tell which side is printed, hopefully the right side. I actually ran into a knit one time that was printed on the wrong side. Not sure I knew why, whether it was a mistake or on purpose, I'm not sure, but definitely printed on the right side. And then we have a lot of stripes. Interestingly enough, this particular stripe is on the bolt with the right side on the inside of the bolt. So if you happen to be able to shop in a store and be able to actually feel the fabric, then you're going to be able to pull that and know which direction and which way is the right side. I have a couple of cotton knits here because we're always looking for really great cotton knits. We have some prints, such as this wonderful little whimsical dotted fabric. This particular cotton fabric does not have any spandex, so again, I would use this more as a top weight. And then we have a lot of fabrics by the School of Making by Alabama Chanin. And this is our only all-American made knit that we have available for you. No spandex whatsoever, and every product that goes into this, the cotton is an American grown product, and it's also manufactured in the United States, so we're very much into this particular knit. We happen to have this knit, the Alabama Chanin School of Making knit, on sale for a couple of more days. It's normally $29.50. Actually, our price was $28, and then we reduced it to $23.80. Don't ask me why that figure, but that's what it was and has been for a week or so. But we're going to take it back up to the same price as the School of Making at Alabama Chanin at $29.50 this Thursday. We have 18 colors of this, so if you're interested in any of the Alabama Chanin cotton knits, now's your time to grab some. You won't find a more beautiful knit to work with or to wear. Knits that don't have spandex tend to be a little bit easier to sew, and so you don't have that wiggly element that drives you crazy about knits. So it's very easy to work with. I have a book, my latest book, called Sewing Knits from Fit to Finish. And if you're interested in knowing about all of the different categories of knits, because we're just talking about one today, there's a whole glossary section in this book about the properties of knits and what knits to use for which garments. I think you might find it useful. And then the bulk of the book is about sewing techniques. Just a quick couple of two techniques that I think you need to know about. We have a product called Fusey Web that we can't live without. This is a paper-covered line of glue. Once you fuse down a strip of this, and you're fusing over the paper, then you remove the paper and you have a very sheer mesh glue. This is what we use to glue down our hems, usually on the cross grain of a piece of fabric. And you glue down the hem first using the Fusey Web, and then it's easy to do whatever kind of sewing treatment or stitching treatment you want on the hem without it stretching out or giving you that little blip, as I call it. It makes a very fine, smooth hem. So Fusey Web is our friend. We've been using it for years. Can't live without it. Grab a couple of reels of it and it'll last you quite a while. The most common seam finish for sewing on jerseys is to actually sew on your sewing machine on the seam line, 5/8 of an inch generally, and then use a 3-thread serge formation to finish the edges. It's not that the edges will ravel, so you don't have to finish the edges. You can leave them raw, but we like the looks of this. It makes it a little more professional looking, and it's what you'll see in most ready-to-wear is a serged edge. And the thread that I use in my serger now is something called Isocord. It comes on a spool like this. There's something like, I don't know, 1,800 yards or something of thread on this spool. It comes in 400 and some colors. It's meant for embroidery thread, really, machine embroidery. But I found that it makes a beautiful thread for your serger. I use 3 spools of it. I buy 4 just in case there are times when I want to use 4. But by the time you buy a few of the color ranges that you tend to use over and over, you'll find that you don't have to own all 420 colors of it, that a dozen colors or so would usually do the trick. And remember, you're going to sew all knits with good quality polyester thread, a thread that is cross-wound on the spool, and because it comes off of the spool more evenly, and your stitches will be more even as well. All right, so there's a couple of terms that have come up recently that I think maybe need to be sorted out. And the first one is called eco-tex. You'll see this in ready-to-wear, on tags, on garments, and you're seeing it now in fabrics. We have, let's see, 12 colors right here of solid colors of eco-tex fabrics. And what that means is you can be assured that this fabric has been tested for harmful substances so that it's a better quality fabric for human health. If you're interested in that sort of thing, I think it's a really good label to look for. It doesn't mean that the fabric is organic. It just means it's been tested for other processing and other chemicals that might have been added in the finishing of a fabric. And then the other common name that people toss around is the word bamboo. And what we see is rayon of bamboo. Again, we have a whole range of bamboo, rayon of bamboo colors. And what I love about them is they are very soft. They're naturally hypoallergenic. So if you have issues with certain finishes or fabrics, you're probably going to like those. It resists odors and bacteria. The colors tend to be beautiful because the bamboo takes the dye easily and really easy care, and they wash really beautifully. So rayon is a fiber that is regenerated from cellulose, wood cellulose. And so in this case, for a rayon of bamboo, the fiber comes from the cellulose of the bamboo plant. So that's how you know the difference. There's rayon, and then there's rayon of bamboo. And rayons are made from various different wood pulps or wood celluloses, but rayon of bamboo would be made from the bamboo plant. So I don't know, I've used those terms for a while, and I just sort of had to finally dig into it and realize what it really meant. So now I want to talk to you about some of the T-shirt patterns that we have. When you really get to looking at our collection of styles in our pattern collection, we realize we have a lot of styles of T-shirts. Some basic, some not so basic, but I thought I would show you some of the ones that we have and how you can access them and how you can learn more about how to make the T-shirts and make variations of the T-shirts as well. So we start with the ET, probably our most basic T-shirt. Has a nice curved hemline, a little bit of a flare at the hip, short sleeve, and traditional ready-to-wear neckline. This is a very signature technique for us, and it's all over our tutorials, from sewing with knits, sewing fashion knits, and then we also have a tutorial called the ET Evolution, which talks about the variations of making the ET in different ways. So this is in a viscose knit, and you can tell that in viscose there's quite a bit of drape to this. This one is made in one of the School of Making Alabama Chanin knits, and you can see that it doesn't have quite the drape. There's a little more structure to this knit. We've also done something very nice to this and put on some appliques and hand stitched on with some heavier thread. This is very Alabama Chanin style of technique, and we have lots of garments where we use this technique. But this is the ET, which is a download pattern. And you realize that our download patterns you can print out on your home computer, or you can send the file to a copy center and they will print it off on large sheets for you. Some people prefer that. Then we have the swing tee, which is what I have on, by the way. The swing tee normally has this length of sleeve. I've lengthened mine to a 3/4 length sleeve, but it definitely has a wider swing in the hips to it. See this little stripe? Even if you don't think you're going to make something in a striped fabric, you just have an aversion to stripes, buy a little bit of stripe anyway, particularly in a black and white, and we have 5 or 6 of them in our stock here. They make great trims and bindings. It just gives it a little bit of a kick, and I think you'd like that. But this is viscose jersey, very drapey, super soft, washes like a dream. Here it is. This is a little variation of the swing tee. This is in a cotton knit, so again you see that it doesn't have the same drape, more structure, but this is a swing tee that has a split in it, and you can wear it just like this with the split, or you can take these little tails and tie them, so it makes a nice variation. This is part of the downloadable series that was part of our So Confident program of 2018. If you have 2018, you have this pattern in your account. If you didn't buy 2018, well, buy it now. Or you can buy the download pattern now separately. So, swing tee. One of the t-shirts that I think gets overlooked because it normally has a roughly flange down the front, and that's the urban tee. But when you delete that flange and use I believe it's the left front, and cut it on the fold, you can make a very basic t-shirt, either short sleeve or long sleeve. Now again, you can see we love this black and white, gray and white stripe for the neck, even used on another striped. I really like the shape of this t-shirt. It looks like it's pretty straightforward and squared up, but there's some shaping to the side seam, and it's very, very flattering t-shirt. We also have a tutorial called the Urban Cardigan, where we take the pattern and we use the seam that normally has the roughly flange and now use it as a feature for an exposed zipper. And these were just some scraps of knits that have been machine appliqued onto the face, and the pocket is part of the pattern if you like that. Again, the striped trim on the sleeves and the neck. So that's called Urban Cardigan Tutorial. We have another t-shirt that's boxier called the Eureka top. It also comes with a skirt pattern. Here it is in the School of Making Alabama Chanin cotton knit with a contrasting color for the neck. Has a nice turned up band to the sleeve, and you saw this earlier in the linen knit. Two very different looks, one drapey, one not as drapey. This can be lengthened into a great dress, especially for summer. Don't forget about that. One of my favorite t-shirts is the Odette. It's part of the Odette and Ivy pattern. This one is in a viscous knit, so it's very drapey. And I did some color blocking so you can see the different shapes that happen on this pattern. It's a very interesting pattern. I like to wear this with something over it so that you see these asymmetrical extensions underneath. Yesterday I wore it under a jean jacket, and people are always saying to me, did you hem that right? And I say, yes, I did. So anyway, I've made it short sleeve for summer. Long sleeve is in the pattern, but it has a raglan sleeve and darts at the shoulder. Here it is in a jersey knit, very drapey. Here it is again in the School of Making Alabama Chanin knit. Now we have a new t-shirt that will be landing in your account on Thursday if you're a member of the So Confident 2020 program. This is a wonderful all-in-one piece cap sleeve t-shirt. This slightly pegged at the hip, so it's broader at the bust and more tapered at the hip. Again, our ready-to-wear neckline. It does have a nice feature at the shoulders. I think I have this on the backwards, but whatever. There's a 1-inch seam allowance at the shoulder, and then we top stitch it, so that's a feature seam. And then it has very nice deep 2-inch bottom hems. And when you go into the stores and look at really, really high-end t-shirts, the ones that cost $300 or $400 or $500, you're going to see some deep hems and some nice details like this. So this kind of ups your game when you add these simple details to a t-shirt. Just gives it a little more pizzazz and a little more upscale to it. Here it is in a jersey knit, again, very drapey. And here it is in a wool jersey. So again, has a little more structure. So those are our t-shirts. The only way you're going to be able to get the Noto Tee pattern for the next year or two is to belong to So Confident 2020. And it's the second pattern that is included with your membership of 2020. And it's coming in 2 days. And we're also doing some variations of it, turning it into a dress. We're adding some flanges to it coming up. So every month for 3 months, we take a pattern, a new pattern that's exclusive to our 2020 program, and we do 3 different variations of that pattern. So check that out. All right, I've talked about some of the tutorials that we have. We have a lot of tutorials on our website if you want to go there and click on tutorials. In addition to the ones I've mentioned, we have a tutorial called T for Two, where we take a couple of basic t-shirts and do some interesting things to them. We have one called Making a Tissue Hudson Top, which is another top that I really didn't show you, but it's a very oversized, boxy top, but made in a tissue knit, and you get all kinds of techniques for working with very, very, very sheer, lightweight knits. We have one called Sewing Crinkles, Gauzes, and Laces, because a lot of knits are crinkly, gauzy, and lacy. And we have the sort of all-encompassing tutorial called Sewing with Knits Update. So in all of these, you're going to get all kinds of techniques for seam finishes, hem finishes, stitch lengths, how to troubleshoot when you're trying to get your fabric through the sewing machine and it's getting hung up in the throat plate. It's all kinds of tricks and tips and tools to use for getting yourself out of trouble when sewing on a knit. We also have a great blog, and if you go to our website and look under blog, you'll see an index on the right-hand side, and you can click on certain patterns, and let's say the Odette, and you click on Odette, and 2 or 3 or 4, however many tutorials will come up. They're free to you, and our blog is an enormous wealth of material that go back for a long way. We've been in this business a long time, so we have a lot of content for you. We are also in the middle of producing a new online class on sewing with knits. So you'll know more about that later. You'll get an email about it if you're on our email list. You probably are if you're watching today on Facebook, so watch for that. I also wanted to tell you what I have on. I think I told you I have on the swing tee, which is one of my favorite t-shirts. Because it's swingy, I tend to wear this. You probably can't see my pants today, but I have on pencil pants. So I wear a slim profile for pants under a wider, swingier top, and the pencil pants are just perfect for that. I also have on this necklace. I couldn't resist today. First of all, it's a really crazy piece, but it reminded me that I'm supposed to be in London right now. We had our London textile tour scheduled for April 12th through the 22nd, and obviously it was canceled during this time. Actually, it wasn't canceled, it was postponed, and we have it rescheduled for next November. And because of the date change, we have 2 new openings. I bought this last year in London. I bought it at a wonderful ribbons shop, I can't remember the name of it now, Vivi Rouleau or something like that. Fabulous ribbon store. We made ribbon rosettes and had a little mini class there. It was one of the activities that we did in London. But I bought this with the idea that I was going to take it apart and use some of the bits and pieces of it in some of my little small textile collage work that I do. But I hung it on the doorknob, and this morning I got up and thought, oh, I'm going to wear that. Reminds me of London, where I wish I were. Not exactly. I love being here. And to remind me to tell you about the 2 openings that we have in our November London trip. So I think that's it for today.
We have
some questions?
We have a couple questions.
All right.
We have one from Alex.
Alex.
Your daughter's on washing. She says, what summer sweatshirts can we wear with our summer t-shirts?
What summer sweatshirts can you wear with your summer t-shirts? This is from my daughter in Cleveland. Okay, summer sweatshirts with summer t-shirts.
Or maybe...
Well, I would... First of all, we have what I consider a great sweatshirt pattern called the Bristol. And you could make that even short-sleeved if you wanted to have a more summer weight sweatshirt. But think about the West End top, which is a zip front knit garment that has a little hood, has some flared bell 3/4 length sleeves, and you could wear that in sweatshirt fabric over a t-shirt. I wonder if that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, maybe just using different weights and different,
right?
Yeah, shortening
or
sleeves.
Yeah, you could. Well, you could take any of these t-shirt patterns and of course make them in a more sweatshirt weight. We have French terries, we have some jerseys that look like jersey on the face, they have fleece on the back, and that would make a great t-shirt, would feel a little bit heavier like a sweatshirt. But I will tell you this, I have attempted to buy sweatshirts in the ready-to-wear market out at the mall or wherever, and they don't satisfy me anymore. And so I realized that I'm way better making my own sweatshirt or t-shirt. I made the Odette, I almost showed it to you today, and I should have, I guess, but I actually made the Odette top last year in a fleece, a sweatshirt fleece. So it had that comfort of a sweatshirt, but it had a little bit of style to it, and it really worked out really well. So think about that. Of course, you could do the urban tee in a sweatshirt fabric, and you could make, just because a binding is a 1/2 inch doesn't mean you can't widen that. Use that same pattern piece, cut it wider, and make a higher band or a turtleneck or a funnel neck neckline to your sweatshirt. I hope that answered your question, Alex.
Okay, we have Jean. Jean's on. Hello, Jean.
Hello, Jean. Are you Jean from Atlanta, Jean?
Yep, our favorite Jean Stanley.
Yeah.
So what pattern is the first t-shirt hanging on the rack?
This one is the Eureka top. Doesn't have the little flange on the sleeve. Instead, the arm's eyes have been bound in another knit and the same knit around the neck. Eureka. Down on the bottom too. I've forgotten that.
Okay, let's see what else we have. Could you explain in more detail why you use isocord in the serger from Leah?
I will. That's a good question. Traditional serger threads that come on the large cone are not very good quality, and there's a lot of lint, and they happen to be fairly thick. And so when I use them, first of all, it gets my serger really dirty, but also the seam is too heavy and too thick. And so when I press it, it tends to create a lump. But isocord has more of a silk-like finish to it. It's very fine and very silky. And so when I use it, I can press and I don't get that see-through like I do with the regular cones. Plus the color choices are incredible. And I can get really, really close to the color that I'm working on, which I really like to do. I would never do this, for example, in real life. I would never serge in a contrasting color or an off color. I'm very picky about wanting to serge overlock in the very same color as my fabric. If I can't find that, my spool just went away, I will buy 4 spools of regular thread and use 3 of regular thread in my serger and 1 in my sewing machine. But this is just a beautiful finish with its silk-like finish, very fine, and it's a much more professional look.
Okay, we have another question about tutorials. Will the new tutorials about knits be different from your Craftsy and Blueprint videos?
All right, I have 2 classes on Blueprint, Craftsy/Blueprint, on knits. One is called, I think, Sewing with Knits, and one is called The Ultimate Guide to Sewing Knits. I could be wrong about those titles. It's been a while since I did them. And the first one, Sewing with Knits, is project-based. While it has sections on seam finish, lessons on hems, lessons on different fabrics, or different types of knits, but it also deals with sewing our E-shrug pattern, and you get that included in the pattern with that class, and we actually make that garment in the class. So it's organized by technique. The second one, the Ultimate Guide, is organized by type of knit. So we start with tissue knit, go to midweight knit, ponte knit, sweater knit, scuba, whatever. So it's divided by categories. And so if you know you're going to be using, let's say, a sweater knit, these are the techniques that you would use for a sweater knit. So the organization is different. And it's strictly finishing mostly. There's no project per se that's attached to that class. Now our tutorials are, they have lots of overlap in terms of the information, in terms of techniques. But ours tend to have more about variations, changing the patterns a bit, using interesting fabrics, more novelty fabrics sometimes. And yes, in every one of them, you're probably going to learn the same technique about doing the, let's say, ready-to-wear neckline technique, but which is pretty standard for all knits. But every one of ours is going to be slightly different content. Ours is a different format. The Craftsy and Blueprint are videos where you can stop on a point and study a little bit. You can ask questions on the platform, although that's been a really somewhat problematic with Blueprint, and I haven't been getting all the questions that people are asking, so you don't always get answered, which is really a problem. For ours, they are more of a slide. They are a slide presentation. So you could say set up your iPad or your phone or laptop by your sewing machine and slide by slide follow us, and you can hold the picture. So we have good photographs of what we're talking about, and we have text that goes along with it. You can also print it out, and you can put it into a volume. People who have printed off, let's say 2012 or Series 1 Sew Confidence, it's 4 inches of paper if you want to create a book. So different format. Ours are a little more expanded in terms of style and design. Crafts is more technique driven.
Okay, Joyce is on and she wants to know how to order the Isacord thread from us.
We do not sell the Isacord thread. Most, in fact all, Bernina dealers are going to have this because OESD that is not true. Isacord is its own company, but they carry Isacord. So I think I'll research that for you and post it on Facebook of where you can buy it. I'll Google it, and there'll be some places where you'll be able to buy it. But right now, Bernina dealers all over the world carry Isacord.
And she also wants to know about the Alabama Chanin. How can she find those on our website?
All right, if you'll go to the Alabama Chanin, how to find the Alabama Chanin fabrics on our website. All right, sewingworkshop.com, shop, fabrics, knits. Are they right there?
And they should have their own category, and also they should be under the solid knit.
That's right. They are under the solid knit category, and they are also under Alabama Chanin School of Making knits. So there's 2 ways to find them.
Okay, Nora is on. Hi, Nora.
Hello, Nora.
She wants to...
your buttons, I know why you asked that question about button spacing today.
She wants to know, do we still have the colors in knit that are made or that are used in the Odette? So the Odette that's on the rack.
That's a good question. We have this one. We have this one. And we have, one that probably here. The answer is yes, almost. 2 for sure, and 1 that we can get close. I'm assuming it's this one, not the green one.
I assume.
Yeah.
Yes.
Knowing Nora.
Knowing
Pink.
Nora, yeah.
Okay.
All right, and Jean has another question. What is the red fabric on the table under the stack? So the dot.
This is a cotton knit. The SKU number is 3632003. It's called Strawberry Speck Knit, and it's 95% cotton, 5% spandex. I misspoke earlier. I said this didn't have spandex, but it sure does. Sorry about that. 58 inches wide, very soft, beautiful.
Okay, Suzanne would like to know, how do you adjust a woven pattern for knits?
Oh, okay. Yeah, if a pattern is built for a woven and you're making it a knit, it depends on the knit. If you're making the same pattern for a woven in something that's very slinky, very stretchy, has a lot of spandex in it, very drapey, let's remember the old slinky fabrics, which we don't really see too much anymore. That would be an example of where you would size down 1 size. If you normally make a large, you might make a medium. But I have to say, I don't do that as much anymore. For sure, if you're using a stable knit, such as a cotton knit or a ponte knit or certain stable interlock knits, that's another topic for another day, I would stay with the same size. And it's pretty rare now when I move down a size. That's what's on paper in theory that you're supposed to do, but you have to evaluate the style, you have to evaluate the type of knit, the amount of stretch, the amount of drape, and what you're looking for in the garment. So it's a tough question to answer universally. And you also have to have something called a tape measure, and you have to measure your pattern and make sure that you have enough ease in this. If you're deciding to move down a size, you want to measure it. And even in a knit, some people want to have 0 ease in a knit. That's not me. I want to have 1 or 2 inches at least in, let's say, a basic t-shirt. Even in a knit, for me, it's still 3 or 4 inches, much like a woven. So you have to know your own preference, your own style, how much ease you want in a garment. So measure it, but think about the idea of being able to move down if your fabric speaks to you in that way.
All right, Terry Kennedy is on. Hi, Terry.
Hello, Terry.
She wants to know which serger threading port do you use the isocord?
I use it in all 3, needle and loopers. The isocord is in all 3, or 4, or 5, or 8, whatever. Actually, I'd have to think about that one. I have one of those sergers that has like 8, the ability to put 8 spools on there, and I have no idea what I would do. But for sure, the standard 3 and 4 and 5 is all the same thread.
All right, we have quite a few requests to see the knits behind you. Samantha's on, Sharon's on. They want to see all the great knits that are behind you there.
Well, we have, I'm so glad you asked this because I just organized this. So these are all of the solid knits that are the Eco-Tex knits. And then we have 100% jersey knits, some of them bamboo, rayon of bamboo, some not. What you can't see below probably is we have lightweight ponte knit, we have organic cotton knits, and we have a new category of ponte twill, which is brand new to us, and we're going to be talking about that in So Confident 2020 in June. And below that we have 20 colors of mid-weight ponte knits. Can you see over here?
Yes, halfway.
Okay. So we have stripes in colors and our black and white and gray and white. We have prints and novelties, some sweater knits, some interesting sort of velour, rib type knits. I love this one. And then this gorgeous sweater knit I'm crazy about. And then we have, this is a very interesting category here. Can you see this on the screen? All right, so this is a category that we haven't talked about very much in terms of a knit. We talk about this fabric all the time. But this is what we call English boucle. So it has that boiled wool effect, but it's rayon and wool, and it clearly is a knit. We have 4 colors of it, including this year's lilac color.
Yeah, you might.
I just love this color. It's all over ready to wear and fashion right now. So we just got this in. We have some more prints. Then we have scubas, fleeces, rib knits. We have a group of heathered knits that are jerseys that have 2 colors to them. And then all across the top are heavier sweater knits, boiled knits, novelty knits. We've got knits.
Okay, and what's the fabric that you're wearing for the swing tee?
I'm wearing a viscous knit. It's not this color, but it's close. So it's a drapey viscose knit. We don't happen to have the color that I have on anymore.
Okay, and then what knit would you recommend for pants?
Oh, for pants, definitely, let me get rid of this for a second. Depends on the pants. If you're making a slim pant, such as our Helix pants or pencil pants, I would recommend our mid-weight ponte knit. If you're making something like, excuse me, I'm sorry. If you're making something like the Picasso pants, something looser, flowier, then I would use a ponte that's lightweight. We have several colors of that. The twill ponte as well. Now, School of Making Alabama Chanin makes pants out of their all cotton, no spandex knit. And they look great. And we've been down to Alabama Chanin and tried on their pants. And the style that they use them in is more of a straight-legged, slightly, something like our West End pant pattern or our Valencia pants pattern. So you're not going to want to make a helix or a pencil pants. You're going to want to make something that has a little room in it. It could have a drawstring waist, elastic waist, some kind of wide ribbing at the waist, something like that. So you can use the Alabama Chanin knits for that as well, because they do. And sometimes they're double layered even.
We have more questions about the fabric behind you.
Okay.
We want to see some large print viscous knits.
All right.
So people want to see them pulled out so they can really see them.
All right. So this is a group of knits that are pretty incredible, actually. So this actually is somewhat of a stripe, but it's definitely blocked. Beautiful colors, fabulous weight. If I were using this, I wouldn't worry too much about matching anything or trying to line anything up. I would just go for it. I might try to decide if I want this perhaps on one side of the top, or if I'm going to make a skirt, where does that fall? This would make a great dress, Cityscapes dress, Memphis dress, Fillmore dress, or Fillmore duster, great skirt, like the E-skirt or the Sixth Sense skirt, even the 8th Avenue skirt. It'd make an interesting Odette top because, once here you have all your sections already blocked for you, and you could impress people by them thinking, well, where'd you get those fabrics to go together? And of course, it all came from the same fabric. Here's a beautiful springy one. Whoa. So again, this is there's a direction to the flowers on this, and this probably is coming off the bolt upside down. But again, I wouldn't worry too much about cutting this out, although there'd be certain motifs that I wouldn't put in certain places is all I would probably pay attention to. Oh, this one is fascinating. This appeals to me as a former interior designer. There's something very architectural about this, sort of a cityscape. I'm crazy about this. You can see some windows, some urban balconies, apartment complex balconies. I think it's fantastic. This definitely has a panel-like appearance to it, which I've never noticed until right now. So you'd have to, maybe be sure that you got a couple of panels, so you'd have something to work with rather than just one. And then as I say that, you could probably get a whole t-shirt out of one panel. So forget what I just said. This is the all-over print that has, I don't know what, sort of a stitched quality in a way, but it's in the print. I want to show you one that's very unusual for what it is. This is actually a French terry, meaning that it is smooth on one side and has loops on the other side. And it's a little bit sheer. and it's wool. It doesn't feel like wool. Very, very drapey, very sheer, but really elegant. Here's sort of a novelty rib knit in a paisley. But the paisleys are not, they're big, but to me the colors blend well enough that I wouldn't feel like this was overwhelming. They're blended just nicely enough. And let's see, let's find one more. Oh, this one, yeah, this is cool. This one actually essentially has two borders. So this is a knit that's a four-way stretch, meaning it stretches both cross grain and vertical. So you could cut this on the cross grain and have this as a horizontal border, either at the bottom of a t-shirt, or you could run it again asymmetrically, vertically, the back or the front. So this is the kind of thing that's just large enough. If you don't like yellow, for example, yellow, you could use quite a bit of this without having to use the yellow portions as the dominant feature of it. But you want to get enough yardage that you have something to work with, to work around. All right, any other questions?
We had one about an 8 thread. Let me find it. Do you ever use the 8 thread cyst seam on your serger?
The answer is no. I've not investigated the 8 thread capabilities of my serger. I'm not even sure when you use it, to tell you the truth. So I think actually you don't use 8 threads on an 8 thread. I'm probably going to show my stupidity here. But I think that it's just a system of a different kind of stitch that happens with fewer cones than that, based on different, positioned on different spindles. I could be wrong. I can't answer that question very well.
And the final question is about Charlotte would like to know if she could get a list of every single sewing workshop pattern ever printed.
Woo! We do have that list. That's sure, why not? We have had, I don't have a count, we keep around 50 or 55, don't we, at one time, in production. But we discontinue them all the time. And we've been in business for 36 years?
Oh no, less than 30. We celebrated 25 a couple years ago.
Okay,
right?
so we started in 1991. So what is that? 30 years?
Right.
30 years, basically.
Math lesson.
Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah, math. So every year we discontinue some. But I suspect that we have 150 to 200 patterns, some of which we're reaching back and bringing back again, by the way. For instance, Erin right now is working on the Hollywood pants, which was a great, I called it my Katharine Hepburn trouser. And that's coming back again as a download. That's what we do sometimes, is we will reach back, and rather than go to the expense of printing, which has become almost prohibitive, we will turn it into at least a download pattern, and you have that opportunity to have an older pattern again. That's what's happened with the cityscapes, the peony vest, some of those older patterns we still like. We think they have come back around again, or we gave up on them too soon, whatever, we'll bring them back. So yeah, we'll put a list together. Sure, it's a good idea.
Sounds good. That's it.
Down the nostalgic road here, reminisce a little bit. Thank you guys so much for coming into our lives today. I really appreciate it. You've all been incredibly supportive in the last few weeks, and we absolutely appreciate it. So we thank you. Stay safe. Talk to you next time.